All right, we're right in the thick of the conference race right now. I mean, there's some teams that still have an opportunity to win their side of the bracket and get into the championship game. We're one of those. So is Nevada. So it's a critical game for both teams this week, and Nevada's hot right now. They're playing really, really well. They've done a good job up there coaching because they've recruited well. They've got a really good quarterback that's playing at a high rate, so it's going to be a difficult situation going up there and having a chance to win.
How would you describe your team and how they're playing?
I think our team is young and very inconsistent, and we've been very fortunate to win the games that we've won.
Since they run the 3-3-5 now, how is that similar or different than the way you guys?
Well, the only thing that's similar is that we have 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 DBs. The way we run that system is completely different. They don't even look the same on film.
So with the way they do it, what are they trying to accomplish?
Well, they're a little bit more standing in a 3-3-5. Now they move around and do some things, but if you watch us play, very seldom do we line up in a 3-3-5. We have a lot of 4-man fronts. We have a lot of 5-man fronts. Now they have a lot of 3-man fronts with 3 linebackers. That's not where they end up. But they look like a 3-3-5 defense when they originally line up. We don't hardly ever, because we have so many different fronts that we play. So the only comparison between the two defenses is there's 3 down linemen and 3 linebackers and 5 DBs. That's the only comparison.
They're very much improved, though, than 2 years ago. What are they doing differently on defense?
They've got better players that understand their system that are playing at a lot better rate.
Rocky, your team played so well, so hard, so emotional at Boise. Are they fatigued? Is it a different team the last 2 games?
Well, we haven't played as well the last 2 weeks, if that's what you mean. I don't know about being fatigued. I think that when you have as young a team as we do, I mean, I think we played 24 freshmen or redshirt freshmen last week. They're not used to playing at this level of competition against this kind of size and speed and experience that they're playing against. And sometimes that's a fatiguing factor. If not physically, it is mentally. I mean, it's like being a freshman in high school and they're playing against the varsity. I mean, they're at a huge disadvantage physically. And over games, that they get worn out quicker than a more experienced guy that's lifted weights and been in our program for 3 years. They're used to that kind of grind. Young players are not used to that kind of grind.
Is that fatiguing for a coach, having so many young players and kind of, I guess, teaching them how to play at the college level?
No. I mean, it's the same for a coach every year. It's very fatiguing, but it hasn't changed from last year or the 10 years before that.
You talk about Ganji, the quarterback, how he's grown. They kind
Oh,
of threw him out there as a young guy and then took his lumps.
Well, I thought he was really good last year too. And if you look at our game against them last year, they moved the ball really, really well and threw the ball really, really well. So he's as good or better than he was last year. And obviously he's made them a lot better. Now, he's probably a lot more comfortable this year than he was last year because he's used to their system. Last year he was getting used to the system, and this year he understands the system, so he's playing very, very well. And they've moved the ball on everybody and they've scored a lot of points.
I feel like your secondary's more up to the challenge now at this point in the season?
Well, I would have thought that. The hope was after we played Boise that we had put all those problems behind us. But I don't think so. They popped up again last week. So I think that we played an extraordinary game that one day, and we haven't been that good or that consistent since that one game. Now, if you can tell me how to get them to play at that level again, I'll pay you a lot of money.
playing to the level of their competition? They're playing up for the big opponent and maybe not so much the...
I don't think so. I think you're on the right track, and this is just me guessing because I don't know. Just like I don't know when they're going to play well and when they're not going to play well, when they're going to be into the game and when they're not going to be into the game. I haven't ever known. I mean, it's not just this group of kids. I have never known. I think we're more on the right track that we're playing so many young players that aren't used to this kind of competition week after week after week after week. When you have a junior and senior team, they are very used to it and very experienced handling that. Just like a 5- and 6-year NFL player as compared to a rookie NFL player. Rookie NFL players hit the wall about halfway through the season because they're not used to the grind and playing against that kind of competition week in and week out. I think that's more our case than the other. I think our young players aren't used to playing against that kind of competition, and they might have hit the wall a little bit. And the trouble with that is, with injuries, more and more of them are playing.
Knowing that Nevada can put up points, I mean, I'm guessing your defense is really going to want to be up for the challenge. I mean, they're like 33 a game or something like that. I mean, can you speak to them putting them, offensively?
They're very good on offense. And they've been really good the last 3 weeks on offense against some pretty good teams. They beat up on Hawaii last week, and Hawaii was tied with everybody else at 3-0 in conference and fighting for, the championship. They still are. Hawaii's still fighting, but Nevada went to Hawaii and beat them up pretty good. So I think Nevada's hot right now. I think they've got a lot of momentum on their side, and they're hot.
They're two of the heavier running backs you see all season.
They've really improved their running game. They have the running back they had back last year, and they have 2 new running backs that are really good. And they're a lot like the running backs we've had in the past. They're not very tall, or like we have now. They're not very tall, but they're big, and they've got good quickness, and they can break tackles and all that kind of thing. And they play 3 of them, so they stay pretty fresh.
They only scored 3 points against Fresno State. What did Fresno State do?
Their quarterback was not playing. Nevada's quarterback did not play. Had nothing to do with Fresno State.
Rocky, what are your thoughts about being 6-1, 6-game winning streak, but voters still haven't put you in the top 25?
We don't deserve to be in the top 25. We don't play good enough to be in the top 25.
Coach, you said after the game you're still looking for a starting running back until Juwan gets back. Can you update us on that?
I think that's we're still looking. No, I think what you'll see is what you saw last week. A bunch of running backs are going to get a chance. Coach Horton does a great job with them, and he designs certain plays that work better for them and their abilities, so they'll all get a chance, and we're looking for the hot hand. Last week it was Chance Bell. So I don't think going into the game we expected him to carry the ball so much, but he looked good doing it, so he got to carry the ball a lot more. And I think that's what we are. I think we're a running back by committee right now, and whoever seems to have the hot hand will get more of the carries. Now, hopefully we're going to get Juwan back here pretty quick, and then we got a starting running back.
Coach, coming off Saturday's game, what's been an emphasis so far in practice this week?
Well, we've only practiced once, and Monday practice is without pads on. And we just trying to get an early look on what they do on offense and defense, so our guys, when we put pads on today, have a better idea so that they can try to execute it against their schemes. There's no more emphasis. That's funny, too. This time of year, our practice schedules are exactly the same every week. The only difference is that the scout teams run a different offense or defense depending on who the opponent is. That's the only difference.
How about Christian? Is he back any time?
He hasn't. He has been cleared as an emergency. That means if all the other quarterbacks get hurt, he'll go in there and take a snap and hand it to the running back. That's what that means.
Maybe the fourth guy to go in after the
He would be on the trip. Usually we only take 3. The last time we took 4 because we took Christian too. So I imagine we got 4 of them going this week. And our freshmen hadn't played yet, so we could play the freshmen before Christian and still be able to we would like to redshirt him, and we'd still be able to redshirt him probably.
So he's still a fair amount away from being able to play?
I think he's a lot closer than he was. But as a coaching staff, we're not going to put him out there until we see him practice that he can protect himself. Now, if you promise no one will hit him, he could play right now. Because he can hand it off, and he's throwing it well. He's really throwing it well. But we do one little drill at the end of Tuesdays and Wednesdays practice where the quarterbacks don't get hit, but they get a pass rush. And you can just tell if a guy comes clean, he's not going to get out of the way.
So it's a movement thing with him?
Mm-hmm.
Lateral
Mm-hmm.
movement.
He's throwing it well. He's throwing it well, and obviously he can hand it off.
Do you think the offensive line has played as well as you would have hoped this year, or is it because of so many other personnel issues?
No, I think they've been inconsistent. They've been like our whole team, and going into the season, I thought they would be one of our more consistent factors, but they've been very inconsistent in their play.
What do you think? Anything in particular is responsible for?
No, they're kids.
How do you feel about Agnew? He's completed 51% of his passes, only 4 touchdowns. Third down conversions not real good, so.
I think that Ryan is played well, and in critical times in very close games, which is that's all we play is close games. In very critical times in very close games, he's made a lot of big plays to help us win the game. That's a pretty good quarterback, if you ask me.
You excited about your defensive front? I mean, they're averaging, the opponents are averaging like 2.5 yards per carry, and did you expect them to be this physically dominant?
I don't think they're physically dominant. I think some of it has to do to the kind of offenses that we've played against. Other than the first game where I thought we played really, really good against the run, against Stanford. Other than that game, we've been very average against the run, but the only team that has tried to run it at us consistently was Air Force. How many yards they gained? How many yards per carry did they get? The rest of the people are spread teams. So if they cannot run the ball and get 6 or 7 yards a carry, they're not going to run it. They're going to throw it. Or they're going to throw screens or bubble screens, or which are just like runs. So we're not even close to being dominant up front. Now what we've done is we've played the spread teams. We've played one really good running team very, very well. And that was the first game of the year, and we lost. So I'd rather have it the other way, where we don't play that very well and we still win.
Considering how you talked about your secondary and Nevada slings it around a lot, are those type of games that, I'm sure every game worries you, but a little bit more because of how your secondary is played?
Now we're back to the front. Secondaries play better the better the pass rush is. And if you want to look back to the time we played really good coverage, just look at what was happening to the quarterback. So when the quarterback's getting knocked around, no matter how good he is, guess what? He doesn't throw it as well, which makes the secondary look a whole lot better. And when they're not getting knocked around back there, guess what? The secondary doesn't look quite as good. So it's a combination of both. I mean, we can blame it all on the DBs, or we can share the blame that we're not getting enough pressure on the quarterback. And usually when you don't play very good pass defense, it's a combination of both. Someone in the back end is making a mistake or getting beaten coverage, and the quarterback has way too much time. Just come out and watch pass Skelly when there's nobody rushing and see how many passes quarterbacks complete. It's the same in a game. If they don't feel any pressure, they complete a lot of passes, especially nowadays when people are running the spread and they've been throwing the ball since they were 5 years old, throwing it and catching it since they were 5 years old. the skill factor is much, much better at doing that than it was 10 years ago. Much, much better than it was 10 years ago. Just look at the rookie quarterbacks.
What do you expect out of Nevada's defense?
I expect them to put a whole bunch of guys, even though they're in a 3-3-5, a whole bunch of guys close to the line of scrimmage, try to make us throw it and see if we can throw it. That's what everybody does. I don't know why they would be different. I hope they aren't. I hope they back off and play really soft and let us run the ball.
With this game and then the game at Fresno, it's kind of a crossroads of the season for you?
I think every game's a crossroad to the season. Fresno's a long, long way away. Can't even think about them.
And I'm not faulting your, shall we say, relatively new running backs, but Juwan, having that experience, probably had some backfield leadership that doesn't exist. Would you say that's a case that, I mean, I get I don't want to blame the running backs who never developed that leadership, but you think that's a case that there's a loss of leadership?
I don't think it has anything to do with what position they play or how old they are or anything else. There's certain kids, now first of all, they have to be a good player. Don't get me wrong. They have to be a good player. Certain kids thrive and are leaders, and some are not. You can't be a leader unless you're a good player. Juwan's a pretty good leader, but guess what? That's because of his personality, and he's a pretty good player. There's other guys out there that are pretty good leaders because that's their personality and they're pretty good players. If you're not a good player, no one's going to follow you. And then there's a lot of people that don't like to lead. And so we don't force anybody to lead that doesn't want to. They kind of emerge. Now, don't get me wrong. You can be the best leader in the world and nobody's going to follow unless you can play.
Anything else for Coach?
Rocky, Jason Bott was afraid to ask this question.
He was?
The lottery is at $1.6 billion. Are you planning to play?
I'm not playing, but if someone wants to go in with me and they want to foot the bill, I'll put some money in.
You're the one that's got the cash in the pocket.
Yeah.
Can you talk about Barron, what he's become, and how do you coach kickers, or do you stay away from them? Because
I
it's a
do.
Different science.
I do it. I stay away from them. You know, I heard him on the radio that he'll never say no to me again because the one time he said no to me, I was intimidating, and I didn't see it like that at all. I mean, I walked up to him and I said, "Can you make it?" He said, "Coach, with the wind and everything, I don't think so." And all I did was turn to the punter and say, "Punt it." I don't know why John took it the wrong way. He said he's never going to tell me no again. I don't know why he took it that way, but that isn't the way I meant it. It is his ability to make big-time kicks in a pressure situation is as good as probably better than I've ever personally been around. I've been around one other really good kicker, and he was kind of like that too. But we win 4 games because we got a kicker that can make field goals when it counts. If someone doesn't pay him a lot of money, they're not very smart. Because I see kickers in the NFL missing extra points.
Maybe it was the way you yelled punter after you talked.
Maybe. I didn't mean it that way, but he took it that way. That's kind of funny.
And of course, you said that the altitude, because of commercial breaks, the altitude really doesn't affect fatigue players in terms of fatigue, but in terms of field goal range, in terms of kick punting distance ability, you think you're going to have an advantage there with the kickers you have?
I think the weather, when you go places this time of year, and Reno is predicted not to be real cold. I mean, it'll get cold when the sun goes down, but it's not real cold. But some of the places we go are always windy, and it's always windy there. That makes a bigger difference to the kicking game than any other part of the game. So now they can kick it farther, when it's high altitude. I mean, that's a proven fact. They kick it farther. If the wind's not blowing, that means their range is better, and we ought to have a good day. If the wind is blowing, my experience is the ones that are experiencing kicking in windy situations are better than the ones that are not. Our kickers are not used, and punters are not used to kicking in windy situations.
I think the cash value of the lotto is 900 million. If you did win, what would you do with it?
I haven't planned that far ahead. But I can come up with a plan really fast if I did.
So could your wife.
That's for sure.
New car?
No, not a new car. I got the best car in the world.